and then everyone will be satisfied. Shall I go to the intendant's before you?" "No, no, Oswald. The intendant does not require me to be introduced to him, of course. I must now gallop up to his house and announce myself. Farewell for the present. I shall see you during the day." Edward put spurs to his horse, and arrived at the intendant's at full speed, making no small clattering in the yard below as he went in, much to the surprise of Samson, who came out to ascertain what was the cause, and who was not a little surprised at perceiving Edward, who threw himself off the horse, and desiring Samson to take it to the stable, entered the kitchen, and disturbed Phoebe, who was preparing breakfast. Without speaking to her, Edward passed on to the intendant's room and knocked. "Who is there?" said the intendant. "Edward Armitage," was the reply, and the door was opened. The intendant started back at the sight of Edward in the trooper's costume. "My dear Edward, I am glad to see you in any dress, but this requires explanation. Sit down and tell me all." "All is soon told, sir," replied Edward, taking off his iron skull cap, and allowing his hair to fall down on his shoulders. He then in a few words stated what had happened, and by what means he had escaped, and the reason why he had kept on the trooper's accoutrements, and made his appearance in them. "You have done very prudently," replied the intendant, "and you have probably saved me. At all events, you have warded off all suspicion, and those who are spies upon me will now have nothing to report, except to my favour. Your absence has been commented upon, and made known at high quarters, and suspicion has arisen in consequence. Your return as one of the parliamentary forces will now put an end to all ill-natured remarks. My dear Edward, you have done me a service. As my secretary, and having been known to have been a follower of the Beverleys, your absence was considered strange, and it was intimated at high quarters that you had gone to join the king's forces, and that with my knowledge and consent. This I have from Langton, and it has in consequence injured me not a little. But now your appearance will make all right again. Now we will first to prayers, and then to breakfast, and after that we will have a more detailed account of what has taken place since your departure. Patience and Clara will not be sorry to recover their companion, but now they will like you in that dress I cannot pretend to say. However, I thank God that you have returned safe to us, and I shall be most happy to see you once more attend in the more peaceful garb of a secretary. I will, with your permission, sir, not quit this costume for one day, as it may be as well that I should be seen in it." "You are right, Edward. For this day retain it. Tomorrow you will resume your usual costume. Go down to the parlour. You will find Patience and Clara anxiously waiting for you, I have no doubt. I will join you there in 10 minutes." Edward left the room and went downstairs. It hardly need be said how joyfully he was received by Patience and Clara. The former, however, expressed her joy in tears, the latter in wild mirth. We will pass over the explanations in the narrative of what had occurred, which was given by Edward to Mr. Heatherstone in his own room. The intendant said, as he concluded, "Edward, you must now perceive that, for the present, nothing more can be done. If it pleases the Lord, the time will come when the monarch will be reseated on his throne. At present we must bow to the powers that be, and I tell you frankly, it is my opinion that Cromwell aims at sovereignty and will obtain it. Perhaps it may be better that we should suffer the infliction for a time, as for a time only can it be upheld, and it may be the cause of the king being more schooled and more fitted to reign than, by what you have told me in the course of your narrative, he at present appears to be." "Perhaps so, sir," replied Edward. "I must say that the short campaign I have gone through has very much opened my eyes. I have seen but little true chivalric feeling, and much of interested motives, in those who have joined the king's forces. The army collected was composed of most discordant elements, and were so discontented, so full of jealousy and ill will, that I am not surprised at the result. One thing is certain, that there must be a much better feeling existing between all parties before such a man as Cromwell can ever be moved from his position, and for the present the cause may be considered as lost." "You are right, Edward," replied the intendant. "I would they were better, but as they are, let us make the best of them. You have now seen enough to have subdued that fiery zeal for the cause which previously occupied your whole thoughts. Now let us be prudent, and try if we cannot be happy." Chapter 24.